Hello and welcome to
Sestra-Tainment.
I'm Lenora.
And I'm Dee.
And we're coming to you today in regards to
Everything entertainment.
So, sis, you are up first this week.
Yes.
What you got?
So, I got a hot topic that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And I don't know how many people have paid attention to this or heard about this, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people did. But it's Ruby Frankie.
Ruby Frankie.
She was a TikTok creator, a YouTube sensation or whatever, and it was called like Passenger 8. It was called 8 Passenger YouTube channel. And basically it was just her and her husband. We were 6 kids. Mm-hmm. And she was just talking about how her everyday life is and like things that they have to do and how she, helps with the kids and deals with the kids and her husband coming in and out, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, they had their own thing. I don't know what happened with her husband, but somehow her husband's gone.
Okay.
And she ended up getting a business partner. And her business partner's name was, I wrote it down. But she ended up getting like a business partner, who was a lady who was her name was Jody. She was a woman who was like a therapist, life coach, but she was, come to find out, very sneaky. So I went down a whole rabbit hole with this, and it was so good.
Okay.
It's good. It's good, but it's bad, but it's good. So Ruby Frankie, with her being the YouTube sensation, she always talks about her kids and everything. But once she started to hang around with Jody, Jody, I guess, got her to change her ways. Is how I took it was that Jody was trying to get her to change some things about herself.
Okay.
And when she started changing things about herself, she started to abuse her 2 youngest children.
What?
Abuse them to the point that the things that was going on with them. So Jody's house is a compound. It's like a really big, huge house. I don't know if it's in California or Texas, but it's like a big, cactusy looking area. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is a little boy, like 11, 12-year-old boy, comes to his neighbor's house. And he has on a shirt. He just has on a shirt and like some basketball shorts and socks. But then he has these things all on him. Mm. And he comes to his neighbor and knocks on the door. And he's like, "Hey, can you call the police for me?" He was, and the man's like, "Why you want me to call the police?" He was like, "Just some family private stuff." And he was like, "Oh."
And how old is the boy?
He's like 10 or 11 years old. Maybe 12. I don't know. And the man's like, okay. And then his wife comes out and they're talking to the boy and they look and he has plastic wrap and duct tape all around his ankles and his wrists. And they're like, what's going on with that? He was like, well, I mean, I just want to talk to the police.
Yeah.
So the husband gets on the phone with the police and the recording of the husband talking, this is like an older, maybe 60-something-year-old man. And he's just like, "Hey, I need the police here. I had this young man who was my neighbor. He was staying over at my neighbor's, walked over here, said he needs police." And then you hear him like his voice starts to crack. He was like, he's been abused. He's been, in a situation. And, the police come, and when the EMTs and the police come and see him, one of the EMTs cries.
Oh, wow.
She's helping him, and then she gets up and walks away and cries. So they had been, whoever it was, I don't know if it was Jody or if it was Ruby,
right?
But they had handcuffed him and tied him up and stuff like that, so he couldn't get food. Like they say he was so malnourished. Oh. Like you could see his ribs and everything. He had like dark circles under his eyes, he, like whenever they would tie him up or whatever, if he had cuts and everything for him trying to get loose, they would take a mixture of like a paste that was like cayenne pepper and like crushed red pepper,
things
whatever,
that would sting and hurt him.
Yes, and they would make that with like honey or something, and they would put that on him, put the saran wrap on, and then tape that, and then lock him back up.
Oh my gosh! So the more you move, the more it's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's going to hurt.
Oh my goodness!
To his ankles and to his wrists. So once the boy's out, then they're like, okay, so where are you coming from? Who else with you? And he was like, well, it's my sister's over there. He's like, it's 2 people in the house. I got my little sister over there. Mm-hmm. So the police now go over to Jody's house, knock on the door. She's on the phone, And the first thing she says is, I'm on the phone with my lawyer. She opens the door and says, can I help you? I'm on the phone with my lawyer. And then they were like, we need to search your premises. She was like, what right do you have? And then they just yank her tail out.
I bet.
They just yank her out the house. And the house was so big. Like they're going through room. And they're like, clear. They get to one room and it has a wall safe. They open up the wall safe and it's a room. It's like a panic room inside of that. So then they were like, what the heck is this? And then they keep going. I think it's like the 10th room. By the time they got to by the time they got to a room, they see what looks like, they thought it was a little boy.
Yeah.
Sitting on the floor in a room with
Just
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
Dark.
Wow.
And they go up and they're just like, hey, what's your name? Silence. Just said that the whole time they were just looking at the police. Yeah. And then was like, okay, well, we're the police. We're just here to try to help you. You know, is there anything that you need? Silence. So as they finally got her to, it was actually a little girl. They had shaved the little girl's head as punishment. She also had the same things, the tape and everything. But they had shaved her head, and they had, once they finally got her to speak and like talk to them, they were like, are you hungry? She said, yes. So they bought her a medium pizza.
Yeah.
She ate the whole pizza. And they were like, you still hungry? She said, yes. So then they bought a large pizza, and she ate half of the large pizza.
Wow.
And then they asked her if she wanted something to drink. Yeah. And then they said, she wanted something to drink. She's drinking everything down. I mean, like, this was on 2020. This has been like a thing about this. So now
I'm wondering how I'm just finding out about this.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it a couple of times on different things, but I just really went into it when I was listening to a podcast and somebody was talking about it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. They said that the husband is Kevin Frankie, and they had divorced before this started with the kids. But some people are saying he should have known had he been an active father in their lives to see that.
Well, so I think that the things that were happening, because I don't know if it was Jody or not, but how I see it is that the whole time the husband's around, the family is happy. Now, when you don't see the husband in any of the videos, the one son talks about how he was like, yeah, I haven't had a room. No, he said, I haven't had a bed in my room since, he said, for 7 months, because his little brother wanted to like dunk on the basketball rim. So he picked him up and held him up there and then walked away. And he said that he was holding on for like 3 minutes, and he's laughing about it. So she's like, oh, so maybe that means that you don't need your stuff anymore. You take that away. And he just fixed his face, and he's like, you just see this sad look on his face, and he's just like, no, I feel bad and I apologize for my wrongdoings, blah, blah, blah. Then it was like, there's some video clips where one of the daughters had a book bag, but she got like something in her book bag or something missing or whatever, and the mother was asking her questions.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to answer the question. She was like, and one of the daughters was like, you don't get in trouble when we're recording. Yeah. So then the girl actually starts bawling and crying.
It's like recording, because it's going to be on YouTube or it's going to be on some social media, so you can act any way you want to act as long as it's recording.
Yeah. So then she starts crying, and then the mother says some stuff. Like, the mother is not all there.
Obviously.
She's not all there.
So do you think that the therapist or the coach is the one who influenced her to do these things?
That's how I'm kind of getting it, because there were other people who have stories about this lady. And one guy said that he thought something was going on with him, and he ends up talking to her, and the lady had him like sleeping in the cold. No, that was a woman. A woman said that she had him sleep, her niece or something like that. She was like, I slept outside in the cold, 0 degrees in a sleeping bag, because she told me that if I couldn't take care of this, then I don't need to be in the house. Wow. And she was like, she said that she tried to make it seem like it was a zero temperature sleeping bag that will cover her up. She said no, it was basically like a blanket, and I'm sleeping outside in the snow. The other guy was talking about how he lost his whole family because he was doing the stuff that the lady asked him to do. She tried to tell him that he was a sex addict and like a pervert or something like that. So she told him he needed to start going to meetings.
Okay.
And then he said, while I'm sitting there listening to these people talk, he was like,
that's not me.
I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
There's no reason for me to be here.
Wow.
And then she was just making him, she was brainwashing him and just making him feel bad for himself. He ended up losing his wife, his kids. And he said, she ruined my life. He said, she absolutely ruined my life. And he was in tears.
Wow.
Talking about this. So there are multiple people that talk about her. And the stuff that, she did. So it's hard to see if it is just Ruby by herself, or if she's heavily influenced by Jody,
the coach, which is crazy how people are so manipulated, by somebody. So, like, if somebody tells you, "Oh, you did this, you don't deserve to stay in your own house," like, if I'm paying you to tell me to do certain things,
they said that she wasn't like that. They said that she would start small. Well, you know what? Maybe you should, and then go for a walk. Then there'd be more.
So then it's like, oh,
and then it's a
gradual,
a little bit gradual. She builds the trust, and then she just makes you do this crazy, crazy stuff. And then she's like, well, this is, if everything else has helped you, why do you think this wouldn't help you?
Right.
And then that's the thing that gets you and makes you think, oh, well, yeah, she's the licensed therapist, and she did help me with this situation. So maybe with this situation, so there are people who are literally being brainwashed.
Yeah. Oh,
just slowly but surely, because he was like, it didn't start out that way. He was like, it started off very small. He was like, it was like maybe 6 months to a year before she said had me doing something that I was completely questioning. But then she made me question myself, question
everything.
Her. Yeah. So it was a whole thing when they went and arrested. It's another thing. The mother, Ruby, she shows up at the house. When she shows up at the house, what happens? The police come up to her and is like, ma'am, you're under arrest for blah, 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 blah. She says nothing, no remorse on her face, no nothing. Gets in the car. They handcuff her, put her in the car, click the seatbelt in, saying nothing. They get her to the precinct. They ask her questions. She's saying nothing. Then she says, well, I'm going to wait for my lawyer. I'm going to wait for my lawyer. They were like, okay, well, if you're not going to talk to us about anything, we'll just go ahead and let you go. Is there anything else that you need? She says nothing. So that's like, bro, like, that tells me right there.
Like, how are you not remorseful
of
anything that has happened? You're not even acting like you don't know about it.
Exactly. If you didn't know about it and you thought that Jody was doing this because Jody had the kids, if you thought she was doing this, wouldn't you be pissed off and livid that somebody was doing this to your kids? But then to her 2 middle children.
Yeah, because she had 4 kids, I saw.
No, she has 6.
Oh, 6.
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 kids.
Yeah. Her 2 middle children, the 2 girls, they were at a friend's house who was like a business partner with that. Well, not like a business partner, but I guess a business helper with the company that Ruby and Jody has together.
Okay.
So she was there, and the mother calls and says, "Hey, can you go and pick up such and such from this place, bring her back to your house?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I got some chores and stuff I need to do because I got people coming over this weekend. So yeah, they can help me out." So the lady goes and she gets the daughters and, brings them back to the house. So she has no idea what's going on. The kids have no idea what's going on. Police show up. It was like, we have a warrant. Like, and they're just, and the husband's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
The mother, the wife or whatever, the business friend, she walks up and she's like, what is going on? Like, she's like, you have a warrant to like search the house? And they were like, no, we have a warrant for you. We need you to step out of the house so we can talk to you. And the husband's like, wait, hold on.
Wait a second,
what's going on? And they were like, can you get the children to step out? And they're like, the husband and wife look at each other and they're like, hey, girls, y'all walk in, and it was like, you can see them right there. Like, we don't know what's happening.
Yeah, right.
For you to just be like, can you have the kids come out here? And so they walk out and they step out, and then they pull her to the side and start talking to her. So now one of the girls is standing behind the husband.
Right.
Now the husband's standing there and they're just like, hey, can we talk to you to the side for a second? And he's like, wait, hold on. I don't know why you're here. You're not answering any questions.
Right.
You're not saying anything. And I'm sitting here trying to protect her because her mother respects us, values us to know that we're going to take care of their child. So he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not saying anything. And they said that one of the police officers said that she saw the 2 sisters whisper to each other, something's about to be bad. Like they knew.
They knew what was going on in the house, but they weren't being abused.
Well, they don't say anything about them, but they also might not have said anything. The oldest son has said some stuff,
but they hadn't been malnutrition.
Yeah, no, because that's what I'm saying.
See people
but this is what I'm saying. It's the last two kids. The other kids really didn't get anything happening to them because they were with the husband. They were with their father. That's why I'm thinking that Jody did something after the father. After they got the divorce and the father's gone. Now Jody is telling Ruby, "This is what you need to do with your kids because your kids aren't listening. Your kids are doing this. Your kids are doing that."
Influenced.
And there's videos of Ruby saying, "Yeah, well, my daughter's school called me today because she didn't have lunch and they wanted me to bring her either some money or some lunch." And I said, "No, because her job is to get up in the morning and pack her own lunch and be ready and blah, 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 blah." So she was like, so she can starve. And other parents were like, other people were like,
and that was what she was putting on her social media.
Yeah.
Because she was a momfluencer who was telling people how to raise their children.
Yeah.
But yet starving and depriving her own children.
Yes. So that is a rabbit hole that you need to go down. I will tell you this. They did go to court. Both of them pled guilty. Mm-hmm. They were just like, yeah, guilty. Yeah, guilty. So I didn't get to the part to see what the outcome is or if they've already had the trial or whatever, but I believe that they did get arrested in February. So it was like,
of this year. And
it was February 20th, 2024 is when they got arrested.
Yes. It says sentenced to prison for child abuse. She was 42 years old.
Yeah.
And, they're going to get between, at the time that I'm reading this, which was in February, I don't know where it landed, but it said between 1 and 15 years each for each charge.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know where it actually landed because this is for February.
Okay, so it says she is now serving up to 3 decades in prison after pleading guilty to 4 felony counts of child abuse. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, 6 counts of aggravated child. Yeah, exactly. That's just terrible. Yeah, it is. It's very bad. So, yeah, that's what I had. If you want to, read up on this and anything.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that is like, it's like you would watch it because you're just like the human psyche and behavior, and how can somebody who was like a normal mom shift and change and just become abusive out of the blue, and the poor children that have to deal with that. And then, or she may have been like that all along and nobody even knows, but then you would think her husband would know something and would try to protect the children. So should there be some challenge with him being not held accountable if he was seeing this behavior, and that's why they divorced, for example.
Yeah, the day he left, because you should have left with the kids.
Exactly. And at the same time, it's like, it's going to hurt me to my heart. This is so sick and twisted. I don't want to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like a catch-22
It kind of reminds me of that that one about the house where the girl out of the house for her sisters
to go next door. Yeah, she ran next door to get it.
She ran to the corner. Yeah, she ran to the corner
because she had found an old flip phone or something and called the cops. That's right. Yeah, that story.
But it reminds me of that, and it's just so sad that these are kids, they don't know.
Yeah, and there's people who are living like that today. That's the reality of it. Unfortunately, there are kids out here today who are going through circumstances like this or worse that we just don't even know about.
Adults out here doing the same thing.
This is true. This is very true.
Yeah, so check on your people.
Check on people.
Yeah. Make sure if you see any windows boarded up, you might, they weren't taped up 2 days ago and they taped up now. You might want to be like, hey, what's going on? You're doing some renovations?
I've seen a place like that. I'm going to have to talk to you about it after this.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But so that's what I just had is the story about Ruby Frankie and her 2 children. They called them R and E.
R and E. Okay.
Yeah, it's Russell and Evie, but they just called them R and E. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to debate if I should go down another rabbit hole like that, or if I should be a little bit more on a different. It's like a documentary still, but which side? So I'll go and it'll be a little lighter.
Are you going to do the same documentary I was going to do next?
I don't think I am. Okay. I think I know which one you're talking about, so I'll leave that alone. Okay. How music got free on Paramount Plus. Yay! I picked one you weren't going to talk about.
Yeah, I don't have Paramount Plus. I haven't looked at Paramount.
Oh, okay. Well, it's on the TV. It's just
it's downstairs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but this is a story of a man in Shelby, North Carolina, named Del Glover, and so it's a little town that brought the music industry to its knees in the 90s. So the situation is that in Shelby, North Carolina, there was a CD manufacturing plant, and there were people who were working in the plant who, when MP3 and all of that was starting, and Napster and all those things, right?
LimeWire.
Oh my gosh. So what was happening is that you had people who were doing things like in the black web and doing things behind the scenes and figuring out this computer stuff and all of that and how to stream music. Well, there was this small group out of the whole world of people who had certain pass keys and ways in which they could distribute and, I guess, download and distribute the music MP3
so
style.
So they're pirating.
They were pirating, right? Exactly. So they were pirates, which they even talk about that in there and say, were we pirates really? You know, so they're talking to like at least 10 of the people. Like one's nickname was Al Capone. So you can literally see like how they were typing each other and talking to each other. And it's like the black screen with the white writing and all that kind of stuff from back in the day, right?
The DOS run.
Yep, exactly. So you can see all that stuff. Well, lo and behold, the situation was that music was leaving the CD manufacturing plant and being released weeks before the Tuesday release dates. So that's how, quote unquote, the music industry came down to its knees. So basically, high level, what happened is that, well, here was the question too. Who was really the ones getting paid? Was it the town people who were working there? No, they were making $8 an hour in the 90s. So they weren't getting paid. So was it the artists? Not really. Artists made some money, but when you think about it, the music industry itself, the CEOs, the Aristas, the Virgins, the whatever,
making the money.
They were the ones that were actually making the money. So for the actual people who worked there, what they go through is this whole elaborate thing of how they had to do everything, right? So what it was is that they would go through and, like, if you were working with the CDs and you had the master copy, you had to put on the whole, like, outfit like you were a beekeeper, basically, and make sure nothing could mess up this master. No prints, no lint, anything. And you would go into this particular room and you would make sure that everything was done. Well, what Del Glover was doing, and he had found out because another friend was stealing CDs and taking them to his house. So he said, I go to a party, and all of a sudden, the guy got the new Jay-Z, the new Eminem, the new whatever. He was like, how you got all this? He was like, oh, I done took it out the plant, man. And he was like, I didn't even realize people were doing that. And it was a guy and a girl, and they talking like, yeah, to this day, I know I got a whole bunch of Mary J. Blige at the house. You know, like that kind of thing. It was crazy. So anyway, this guy got the brilliant idea. He said, look, I'm self-taught. I love computers. So what I would do is go get a computer. And he said he was like 15, 16 years old. He would take it all apart, put it all back together. Like he just knew how to work computers. So he started connecting with different people online and came across the fact that people were making these MP3s. He started working with a particular person called, I think it was Kalal or something like that. Callie. So some people call him Kali, some people call him Callie. But anyway, and so Callie and Del ended up making a partnership where Del, you come across the new XYZ, I'll give you good money for that. You go ahead and take it. And he was working with like the master copy. He was in the right places at the right time. So he would take it, make a copy of it, and then get it to Callie. And then
Callie could upload it.
Because you had all these people who wanted to get the music first, right? And so what used to happen was that, okay, the music hits the shelves on Tuesday. They said they don't know why the release date is Tuesday. They're talking to music executives. They're talking to Eminem. They're talking to 50 Cent. They're talking to Timbaland. They're like, all these people are a part of the documentary, as well as the people who were basically getting robbed because of the fact that this was happening, right? And so, so music executives are like, we don't know why it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday. So then all of a sudden we're realizing before that Tuesday, music is getting released like by Thursday or Friday or something like that. So then they said we had to move the date up to the Friday before the Tuesday. Yeah. But then when we move it up to the Friday before the Tuesday, then it goes to the next, so they were like, we could never get ahead of it. Yeah. They're blaming engineers. They're thinking the music engineers, the people sitting in the room are making their own copies and then giving it for the MP3s. Now, some of the artists back then were like, look, I don't know why they think music should be free because I've worked hard. I got the engineers to pay. I got the producers to pay. I got the this and this and this to pay and the advertising, the promoters and all that stuff. So music should not be free. But then you have, and Eminem was adamant. He was like, this thing is just messing everything. And he was like, literally, they showed him on like an MTV, like, I don't know, TRL or something. Yeah. And he was just talking about, y'all. So if you want to get the newest CD from me, then you need to purchase it because the ones that you're getting off the street aren't going to have my extra, all my lyrics are in here. Yeah. You're going to get extra this. You'll get a bonus, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's like, all this stuff is going to be only when you purchase. So they were always trying to push people to the purchase versus the actual burned copy. But, so it was crazy. But the whole thing is about Del getting these master copies, him getting it to Kali then taking that information, putting it online, and then the Al Capones and the whoever else is, I just remember Al Capone's name because even that guy was in the documentary and he was just saying like, I was a teenager and thought I was a gangster at the time. I don't know, like that's kind of what it was. And it was so weird that there were all these young people, like they were really young.
Oh, I believe it.
And so what ends up happening is, they're trying to figure out how does Kali get all of this before us? And sometimes it's 3 weeks ahead of time. Okay. Nobody thought about the CD production place. Yeah. They're all blaming each other in the industry to the point that they're like, you get the CD, you end up putting it into like this vault case. Mm-hmm. Eminem was so nervous about his going away that he actually ended up like putting it inside a box, inside another box, inside a bigger box with tissue and wrapping paper and blah, 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 blah. Like he would just do this whole big package and it'd be one skinny little CD on the inside because he was like, if it comes looking like a CD, everybody's going to know it's a CD.
Yeah, it's true.
Then you had students who worked at like the university radio station and they might get the early release of a CD like Jay-Z. Then they would take it. One guy said, I would always get the mail. So I'd get the mail, I'd run to my dorm room, I'd burn it, I'd run back, put the CD in there and act like nothing ever happened. But then I would have the early release oftentimes even before Kali would have, well, not before Kali, but, before other people would have it and people didn't know how he got it, but it was because the radio stations would get it before anybody else, and it got on the street. So anyway, it's this whole elaborate story about how Del basically is the guy who, because of him just being, I guess, an entrepreneur, but it's weird because people feel differently about it. Some people feel as though, hey, because of him, now you can get songs for 99 cents or, whatever. Yeah. And then you had all the Napsters and everything that were out there and what they were trying to do. And then it goes through the whole story of the federal government and how it's only 2 episodes, but it went through the whole story of how the federal government got into play and how they came down on people who were downloading Napster. Cause I remember back then that it was like, oh, you downloaded Napster, they could be coming after you. You better get it off of all your systems.
It was like that with LimeWire. Too.
Yeah, and they were like, also they were saying that they were going around with the microphone, I think MTV, and they were like, so how many downloaded songs do you have talking to kids in college? And somebody was like, I probably have 200. And somebody else was like, I probably have about 700. Somebody else 1,000. Somebody else was like, about 36,000 songs. He was like, wait, what? You have 36,000 songs or something crazy like that. Maybe it was 3,600. I can't remember. But it was something ridiculous. But it just goes to show that this was a big, huge deal. And so he did that for 11 years. He stole CDs and DVDs as well. So they said even when you went to the guy at the corner who was not even at the corner, if you got the corner guy to come into the barbershop and he's selling the CDs,
he sell everything.
That was stuff that Del had stole. So all the stuff that you were getting way in advance were all things because of Dell. So basically how I found out about this, and like they said we were the Netflix before there was Netflix. Like we were doing it all. And so they said that they stole over 20,000 albums. They had Kanye, 50 Cent. They were the determining factor. Dell determined, remember when Kanye and 50 were having that whole back and forth kind of beef that they had going
Not
on?
Necessarily, no.
You don't remember? Yeah, it was something about
what was it about?
It was just they both had albums coming out at the same time, and they were both like, "I'm going to beat you. My sales are going to be above yours. No, they're not. Mine's is going to be higher, whatever." So 50 was going after Kanye, and Kanye was going after 50, and Dell was like, "Who do we want to win?" And then Dell picked Kanye, and Kanye won. And 50 was like, "What happened to my sales? What was going on?" And that's why they were like, he single-handedly just decided, "Hey, this is who I'm going to say is going to win," and that's how it happened. And so, so it's crazy. But 50, is in the documentary talking about his experiences and all that. Let's see here. But everybody's saying basically, nothing about who this guy is. He's still in Shelby, North Carolina. So much money has been made off of the stuff that he did. Of course, he's not profited off of any of it, unfortunately. And this particular documentary, How Music Got Free, is on Paramount Plus, and it was produced by Eminem. So even though Eminem was like really, I guess you would say, I guess a lot of his stuff was stolen from this whole process, he still is doing the producing. You have LeBron James is involved as well. And I don't know who's Maeve Carter. Do you know who Maeve Carter is? Mav Carter?
I don't know. Who that is.
Yeah, I don't know. It just said at MAV Carter. So anyway, but how I found out about this was through through Mad Skills, actually. So Mad Skills, who is like writer and producer and all of that in Virginia, he actually is a Facebook friend of mine, and he was putting on there, "Hey, have y'all ever heard of Dell?" And then he went through and told the story and said there was a documentary that was going on. So that's kind of how I got involved in it. But anyway, they were like, yeah, they would make these CDs for less than $1 and they would sell them for 15. Like it was just ridiculous that the executives were making so much money hand over fist. And then they get into Apple and them coming out with the iPod and how that changed the game as well. And how some of the music people were even trying to get into it from that perspective. So that's what I have. I have, what was it called again? How Music Got Free on Paramount Plus.
How Music Got Free.
Yep. But it was really, really interesting, especially just for a couple of hours. And it just turned the whole music industry on its head and had to make them get out of the, it was like you had 8 tracks, you had albums, then you had to get the CDs, and then cassette tapes. They talked a little about cassette tapes too, and CDs. And so then it was like, all right, this next level, and how do we get there, and what will the next level be from here? So all interesting stuff. So all right,
that sounds good.
Yeah. So what do you have, sis?
All right. So I have another documentary.
Okay.
And this is Dancing for the Devil. The 7M TikTok
That's the
cult.
other one I was looking at too. Yeah, I finished that one.
So this one is wild. So TikTok blows up sometime around COVID. There's, people who were on there dancing. TikTok was like a dance thing.
Yep. So it was a music to start.
Music
thing to start, and then it moved into dancing and music. Yep.
So with that being said, there were people who were part of or wanted to be part of the 7M family, whatever it's called, cult.
Well, but it started off.
It started off easy.
Well, it started off as a 7M. You were the 7M management company, so they were the managers of
but
and negotiating contracts, stuff like
company,
that.
So not the family or the team or whatever.
Right.
But they were getting TikTok family. They were getting TikTok people that were like dancers to come in.
Yes.
Do their little dance. Oh, okay. Well, we can, go ahead and set you up so we can get you some gigs, so we can be on this, you can be on commercials, blah, blah, blah. And the guy who was doing this was a man named Rob. Now,
Robert Shin.
Yeah. Now, he had a church called Shekinah. Mm-hmm. Now, with the church was over top of the 7M name. the 7M Enterprises.
Right.
So everything was funded by the church.
Right. So yeah, it was like an umbrella. So if you think about it, there was Shekinah, and then underneath that was 7M Agency.
And it's wild. So the team was the 7M company or whatever as a whole ended up being kind of good, but still kind of some BS. But the man Robert, the pastor Robert, he had allegations of essaying some women. They actually walked in on him while he was preaching a sermon or something like that. But it's just so much when it comes into that, because there were two sisters that were like, I don't know if they were twins or if they were sisters. Like 11 months apart, something like that, because they were close in age, and they had done TikTok stuff. They were like, okay, so we can go ahead and go to 7M management team, and then we can blow up. Well, because it turned into a cult, one of them left and the other one stayed. Mm-hmm. They had not talked to each other. They had not seen each other. They were actually in two separate parts of the house. And then they were saying that the pastor Robert would say, okay, well, you have to move and go live in this room with this person, and you're going to have to sleep with him. Mm-hmm. And then he was just, the stuff that he was saying, because I have some of his recordings, the stuff that he was saying was so garbage. Like he basically had it set up for the 7M management team. All of their stuff that came in, it was like a certain, like this percent goes to this percent goes to this percent goes to this. So now you went from $3,500 to $200.
Yeah, you could have somebody who had gotten a contract. Let's say that it was a shoe deal or something, right? And they're going to dance with these certain shoes on. Well, they could get $100,000 from that, but by the time everything was said and done, it's like, well, you got to tithe your 10%.
Exactly. Yeah,
you got to give to the church an additional 10%. And then Rob, being the pastor and your mentor, he gets 10%. So
many percentages.
And then you have the person who's over here.
Something was getting 20%.
And they were saying 70 to 80%
but it's like, so how much
gone.
money are you actually getting because of that situation?
Yeah.
But so there were two sisters that came in together. One of them ends up, I guess, just disappearing.
Well, yeah, it seems like what had happened initially was that the two sisters found out about 3M. They go, and then one of them was just totally infatuated by it. And the other one was just like, this feels a little weird to me. Like, this doesn't feel right, especially when they're telling me I can't take my friend to the airport. Yeah. I have to come to this church service, because that's what he did. He incorporated everything into the church. So it's like, if you don't do certain things, then you're not going to be blessed. And the whole purpose of you doing all this dancing on here is so you can be blessed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like,
is you want that abundance. You want that money. You want that fame and the followers and all that. And I'm going to help you to get there with God directing me.
That was another thing they said. They said they would always be like, how many followers do you have? When you went in for your interview or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I mean.
And building them up, and he had them dance. I mean, literally, I had watched people doing their dances, like 7M people, and I didn't even know that that's who they were. I think I'd even liked one of the videos because I was like, oh, they're moving together really well. And then realized, like, wait a minute, these are people who are in a cult, and they have to dance like 8 hours a day, it seemed like. Wasn't that what they were saying?
I think it was.
It was some long amount of time.
8 to 10 hours or something like that. And then the parents didn't know where they were recording at. They were trying to look at the pictures in the background to see if they could find the kids.
Yeah.
And like, so with the two sisters, the one sister, they kept trying to reach out social media, kept trying to call her, couldn't get in touch with her. Then finally she was just like, she gave in and was like, I'm good, I'm here, God's got me, blah, blah. And they were just like, this doesn't sound like our daughter.
Exactly, right.
And so they were looking at a video that she did with a young man who actually ends up being her husband. They were just like,
but they liked him because they did like him. They had met him before she got so involved in the cult, and they were like, "Oh, we like him. He stayed
he's awesome.
With us. Like all of that."
But then it was like, but you just got married? Like, you didn't want your sister in the wedding? You didn't want us there?
Nobody. You had to cut everybody off. And then they have recordings of him telling people, oh, us cutting everybody off didn't work. So now engage with them. Make them think that you're the old you, but you know.
But when they ever talk about us, you cut that. You cut it right out. You nip it in the bud. We can. You don't talk about how we're dealing with the stuff here. Right. So, but then, so there were the allegations came out about the sexual assault, and when those came out, well, it was actually, I think it was four girls walked into the church while he was preaching, and started like yelling at him. So while all this is happening, his right hand man decides to leave. Yeah, and then some of the dancers were like, "All right, well, I'm out." Now the two Asian sisters, one of them was like, "Come on, let's go," and she was like, the last one was like, "No, I'm staying here. I'm staying here. I need to fulfill my purpose," or something like that. Some crap like that. So, so they are just trying their hardest to find them. There was two more parents that actually ended up getting in contact with those parents of the daughter that Miranda that disappeared.
It was Nick Reno's parents.
His parents. And they said that he just changed up and tremendously too. And the heartbreak that you see of these parents and the sisters and stuff like that is so,
because you feel like you have a loss in your family, but you don't.
But you don't, because they're there.
They just have cut you off completely. Or even if they do come around, like with Miranda, who was the sister who originally all this was about, when she would come around, it was superficial. It was just like, oh, well, we can't bring up this and we can't bring up that. We can't ask questions about this. So I'm going to record this while we're sitting here eating. She's going to record everything because it's for content, because he tells them, you go around your family and show everything's okay, so that people who are following you know that everything's okay.
Exactly.
But now I saw that there was this movement since this documentary just came out, and I think it was the end of last month it came out, is that to stop following them. Like unfollowing them so that way
they're not getting any money.
Exactly. And maybe that will wake them up to the fact that, oh, he's telling us we were going to be blessed and abundantly, blah, 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 blah. And now we're not. So therefore, do we need to continue to listen to him? And you had some people who left, like Aubrey Fisher Green. He left. He was just like, I can't do this anymore. There was Kylie Douglas. She left. It was like Kalia, Kevin Davis, all these people were just like, yes, I'm going to do it. Oh, this is great. We're dancing. We're making our content. We're loving all of this. And we wanted to get with 7M because we don't like the back office part of everything. Yeah. But then it's like, you don't like that hard part of negotiating contracts and all that. But this guy's, he negotiating it for your interest. For with your best interest at heart. But you have Miranda, who's still in to this day. She is still in, I literally went down the rabbit hole of looking her up. Yeah. And she just put a video out a few days ago saying, I was having a great time with my family. I was talking to them and engaging with them. And we would laugh and joke, and I was meeting with them. And now for them to do this, I just don't understand. And I think that they just don't want to have this relationship. And so I'm just looking at her and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how do you not know you're so deep and involved in what you're involved in, right? Her husband's name is James, but they call him B Dash. So B Dash Derek. So those two are still in it. Nick Reno is still in it. And they just show all these people, and their whole world is dance, dance, dance. And it looks like they've even added more people. I mean, I'm not sure since the documentary, but over time to the 7M. And this man, by the way, had the church before, and that's where the two sisters were involved. And one of the other sister did finally leave, but even when she left, she's like, I wasted the best years of my life with this man, so he could have the best years of his life. And I was like, wow. So she is so broken still to this day, and so like torn apart. So
they said that Miranda didn't show up for her grandfather's funeral, and she was super close to her grandfather. It was like, that's not like her. And that's when the family was like, forget it, we're driving out.
So it is bad. It is really bad. It's another thing that's like interesting to watch, but at the same time it's like, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, very true. But that's just what I had. Just one little quick one. It was Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult.
Okay. Well, then I guess I'll stick with another documentary then.
Right.
So we'll just do documentaries all day long. This one is American Murder, The Family Next Door on Netflix. And so a lot of people probably have heard of this particular couple, well, and I guess I would say the husband, because of the fact that he was really, number one, you know how sometimes you have people who do terrible things, but they're attractive. So therefore everybody's like, oh, he's so fine. I can't imagine that he would do something like that. Well, come to find out, that is the case in regards to Chris Watts in American Murder, The Family Next Door, and the story of him, because of the fact that his wife went missing. So she actually ends up coming home from a conference with a girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. And so what ends up happening, her name is Shanann Watts. So Shanann or Shanann Watts. I know they say it kind of interestingly out there. But anyway, so she comes home from a conference. And she is the same as almost the TikTok mom you were talking about, where she is out. She's putting herself online all the time. She's showing what a great mom she is, all of that, right? And so she talks about the relationship and her husband and their true love story and all of that, because it was her second marriage and she has 2 beautiful children, the whole 9 yards. And so she goes away for a few days with her friend to this conference. The friend drops her off, and it's like, I don't know, 1, 2 in the morning by the time they get back from this particular conference. And then the next thing you have is actual audio tapes of her talking to the friend, talking to the police and saying, hey, I want to report that I think somebody is missing. And it's the very next day. So the police are like, well, she hasn't even been gone like 48 hours yet. Like, what makes you think that she's missing? And she was like, well, I dropped her off in the early morning. She had a doctor's appointment because she's pregnant. And I told her I was going to follow up with her to find out how the doctor's appointment went. And she's not returning my call. She hasn't answered anything. Can we at least meet at her house? So they go to the house. They're trying to knock on the door. They're looking through windows. They're trying to see if a neighbor has seen her at all that day. And everybody's like, nope, haven't seen her. Don't know what you're talking about. Nope. Everything seems quiet. Everything's good. Like, where are the kids? Oh, I don't know. Not sure. Haven't figured that out. The whole 9 yards. So the friend ends up calling the husband. So the husband comes home from work. And they're roaming around the house, trying to find Shanann, trying to find what's going on. And her phone is there. Medication that she has to be on is there. Like, all of these things are still there at the house. And so therefore they're like, what is going on? She would never leave without all of these things that she needed to have. And the children were missing. So they were like, what is going on? So the husband is going from like a neighbor's house or a friend of the friend's house, like all these places, trying to find out, oh, is she here? What's going on there? Well, let's just say the mystery unfolds. And what happens to the mother and the 2 daughters in the case, it's really terrible. Like, it's really, really bad. The husband, Chris Watts, I mean, I think if you Google him, you will see his story, and you will know that you will know just what all is going on. I almost feel like I could spoil it because I think everybody knows what happened, but I'm feeling like I don't necessarily want to, for anybody who wants to really just check out the story and see it for themselves. But there's a whole situation of him. It's a situation of another woman that he works with and what's going on there. It's a situation of him being held in interrogation for extended periods of time, and them telling him, look, if you did something to her, let us know. If anything has happened, just let us know. What's going on? Tell us, and he just denies. And let's just say he shouldn't have denied. But then you're also like, okay, well, even if he did something to his wife, where are the children? Where are his daughters? And that part is heartbreaking as well. So anyway, that is the American Murder, The Family Next Door on Netflix. And that is the story that, it's a documentary. It's a few parts that it walks through. I don't think it's only one episode, but it is definitely a devastating story. So what do you have next?
Okay, so my next one that I want to talk about is Prom Dates. Now, Prom Dates is on Hulu. This came out May 3rd.
Okay.
And it's cute. It's a little high school movie. It's about these two teenagers, the best friends. You got Jess and Hannah. The best friends, 13 years, and they have always wanted to go to prom. They were like setting it up. So they ended up sneaking into a prom when they were younger.
Oh.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know if their parents were like there or something like that, but they were underneath the table talking about prom and how excited they were for it. And they were like, okay, let's make a pact that we'll set up all of our stuff for prom together and blah, blah, blah. So this is the time.
Okay.
This is their time.
Okay.
Now, Jess dates Luca. Luca is like a Chad. He's a bro.
Okay.
He's very much like, do you not know who my dad is?
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you have Hannah, and Hannah dates Greg, who is obsessed with her. And when I say obsessed, like, this is not healthy, bro. You might need Jesus in a padded room.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Some grippy socks. Because he's doing so much. Like, I think he has pajamas that has her face all on it.
Oh, gosh.
I think that, like, like everything, he's just like, whatever she wants to do, he's like, okay, yes, I will do this. And like, you're home from school. Okay, let me take off all of your stuff and rub your feet while you tell me about your day.
Yeah.
And I just give you positive affirmations about how beautiful you are. And she's like, yeah. Okay. So, what ends up happening is they navigate their way through high school planning their perfect prom night. They're like, we got this, we got our dates, blah, 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 we're going to be dressed like this. But there ends up being some trouble.
Okay.
One, Hannah has a little issue with her sexuality.
Okay.
Two, Jess is dating Luca, who's a Chad. That's automatically just bad.
Problematic.
Yeah. So now they have the issue of the Luca. Luca is being like this, but Jess really likes him, but Luca is like cheating on you right in front of your face. Like, you blatantly see it.
Watching it happen.
Yeah. And Hannah is like, Greg is really nice. He would be a great friend.
Yeah. So she's over it.
To call to hang out with when I want to play Dungeons and Dragons or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So their friendship ends up getting tested when it's Hannah's going through something and Jess is not there for her. Because Jess is infatuated with Luca.
Right.
So she's like, are you serious? Like, you know he's cheating on you. It happened in your face. I need you because I'm going through some stuff and you are not here. You'd rather be stuck up his butt. You'd rather be with him. So, yeah. So, and then their arguments are going back and forth. But it's like, but we were supposed to be like losing our virginity together, like that night. Like, we had everything set from when we were in middle school, like elementary school, something like that. So them going back and forth with that ends up bringing a tear in their friendship and becomes like brings them back. But it ends up being a lot on them in general. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of push and pull. It is a lot that happens. Greg finds out about how Hannah's really feeling, and now Greg is heartbroken. He is driven his Mini Cooper up on her yard, with a speaker box, be like, Hannah, and then the brother comes out and he's like, yo, what are you doing, bro?
What's happening?
She's not even here. But then Hannah's brother and Jess end up having a little thing, and you find that out in the first 2 seconds of the freaking show. Well, it's a movie. You find out in the first 2 seconds of the movie, so you can see him being like, "Hey, what's going on, Jess?" and her being like, "Hey." But he's also the older brother that's in college. So you get the friend that's attracted to the older brother, the best friend or whatever. So then it's that, but then it's like, but she's kind of weirded out by him, and then they're both in the car. Hannah and Jess are in the car with the brother, and she starts talking about, so prom dates are prom's coming up, and Jess is ready with her boyfriend, and then you see the brother being like, so you got a boyfriend? Oh, okay. well,
not putting together that her saying that is making him aware of some things.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it is some nasty parts of this movie. It is some funny parts. There is a kind of like a West Virginia type feel that happens in one of the parts.
Okay.
It's like, your aunt who? That's my aunt. Wait, did you, like I'm going to throw up in your mouth.
Related?
Yeah, they were related, yeah. So, but it is a cute movie. Like I said, it is about...
It's so sad that West Virginia gets that rap, though.
But I mean, it's the Appalachian.
It's the Appalachian.
It's not just West Virginia, because I'm pretty sure some in Virginia like that too.
Probably a little bit everywhere.
Probably Tennessee. Yeah. All in that little area. Like that whole circle right there.
Well, I mean, if it's good enough for royalty. No, I'm just talking.
I mean, yeah, that's what. But see, you know what? I did. Let me just touch on this. I did watch something where some British people were looking at some Americans, and they were just like, man, like, have you ever seen, I was listening to a podcast, and it was like, have you ever seen this documentary about this West Virginia family that have had incest so much that one of the brothers only grunts, one of them can't see, one of them can't hear, like, they're missing teeth, like their face is deformed, and they're like going off on it. And I was like, isn't your queen and your king won't they related? It was like they're cousins, right?
They were cousins, yeah.
And that's the whole thing. It's like with the royal family, it's like, okay, so because we're here, we're gonna keep the bloodline strong. But in Scotland, your uncle is there and he has a son. So guess what? You're gonna marry that cousin. And we're gonna keep the bloodline strong, and we're gonna have this great royal family.
Yeah. But then they do have those cousins like they cover in The Crown where they are in institutions because of all that going on. Continuous incest.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting. But okay, go ahead.
Sorry. So they have the little incest thing going on, which is like, it's really like 2 seconds, but it's just it's entertaining. And then how it turns into like a joke afterwards. It's kind of funny. They have where some of the teachers and stuff are in it. Some of the parents are in it, trying to talk to them and be cool with them. But it's like, bro, we don't even care. I think it was like one part where the teacher says something to them and they just stop and look at the teacher and then they go back to their conversation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it is a cute little movie. I could see it just being so I could see this being something that actually would happen if it was like a real high school, not a movie high school.
Yeah.
Like the girl who's really smart dates the jock who is being mean to her. Yeah. And then her best friend is like the chubby girl who's like trying to figure out what she wants out of life, but then has like the geeky boy who likes her and she's like hanging out with him. She's like, well, at least I got somebody. My friend has somebody. I have somebody. But, I could see all of this actually playing out and being a real thing.
Okay.
So, I think it's cute. I like it. It's
what
called
was it again?
Prom Dates.
Dates with the plural.
Yes, Prom Dates. And it is on Hulu.
All right.
Excellent. So that's all that I had.
All right. Well, that is it this week for Sestra-Tainment. We hope everybody has an amazing week going forward. Enjoy. It's the holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess it's like Father's Day. So make sure that you spend
shout out to all the daddies.
With the daddies, daddies.
Unless they're deadbeats, then no shout out to them.
I was going to say the baby daddies too, not the baby daddies.
They're deadbeats. I said
deadbeat baby daddies. Don't worry about them. They get no gifts.
Shout out to the moms that are.
Shout out to the moms
that are playing the father role.
Yes, exactly. So, all right, everybody, have an amazing week. Take care. Bye.